Deb, your wealth word is freedom. What does
Mhm.
freedom mean to you?
Well, to me, wealth is not just money. And we talked in the other part of this conversation that sometimes getting sick costs a lot of money. And so that is kind of one of the challenges with this. But for me, wealth is about the freedom to be able to focus on healing and doing what I need. I am very lucky that I have a wonderful husband. We have the financial freedom to do what is needed to be done. And I recognize that is incredibly important, but it is also about how are we going to do this? Who am I going to have around me? What are my terms? So it's the freedom to be able to make those decisions, and that's where it is a challenge for people, if especially if it's from a financial perspective. Sometimes decisions get made for us, especially in healthcare. It's also about power, right? Professional power to continue my business the way I wanted to be doing it, but also personal power. I've got the freedom to be able to say, okay, this is the way I'm going to do it or the way I'm not going to do it.
How do you think your attitude changed from where you were before till now?
Well, I've always been very independent, very, standing up for myself type of person. And that was how I was raised. I am an only child with a very strong-willed mother. Love my dad, but he just kind of let these two girls take it over. But I think even more so, I realized this is my future and I need to go where I want to go. And now, like with treatment, I chose the traditional approach. And it's funny because I tell people many years ago, worked for the American Cancer Society and for an oncologist. So I know just enough to be dangerous. I did choose the traditional approach. Chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. Many other people are going to do something totally different. And that is the nice thing, is we do have the freedom to be making those choices. And sometimes those choices are no, I'm not going to do that. When I worked for the oncologist, we had, now this is 35 years ago ish, somewhere around there, right? We had a patient who said she wasn't going to have anything done. No, she was not going to do that. And she was going to take whatever money she would have spent on that and go on an around the world cruise. And so my doctor, we packaged up all of her medical information because it's a little tricky if you die somewhere else. There's just issues. And we gave her all of that and off she went. And for a while, we got postcards from her. And we just thought it was and she really was. She was touring the world. And then they stopped. And we decided she found a place on an island and was just there forever. And so sometimes that is the freedom too, is being able to make those decisions and knowing that it's going to be okay no matter what it is.
Can you tell us a little bit more about founding TryingNotToDie.live and what that means to you?
Sure. Well, I got pushed into it. So my business coach is this wonderful woman named Kathleen Caldwell. And she knows all of my history, all of the drama. And so I was working with her on a business project, right? And she says, you didn't go through this to not use it to help others. I said, yeah, but I don't want to be cancer girl. I don't like that cape. I don't want to do that. And she just shook her head. I would realize that I was helping people no matter what. Doctors would call me in when they had students. They would call me in when they had new patients. I mean, all sorts of things. When I'm in the infusion room, I'm up getting people drinks and all of those various things. And so I did think, okay, what did I go through that I could use to help others? And we decided to do this initiative. It launched about 3 years ago. And the trying not to die part comes from the fact that when we have something catastrophic happen to us, and sometimes just regular life, right? We get so caught up in trying to not die that we forget that we have to live. And it really did come down to that for me, was what are these decisions that I'm going to make? How much living am I going to do? At that point, absolutely no idea how long I was going to live, especially with a stage 4 diagnosis and then multiple complications. I mean, I went into septic shock. 75% of the time that is fatal. And I will always have issues because of all of that. But yeah, how are we going to live? And so, I am a marketing person. So I was going to get TryingNotToDie.com because that's what you do. It was taken. I was like, well, how rude. And so when you're in GoDaddy or whatever, it makes suggestions, right? Have you thought about it? And now, now it's dot whatever you really want. But GoDaddy suggested .live. And I was like, "What? Duh." And so it's actually an acronym. So we're leading our tribes, we're invigorating our souls, we're voicing our feelings, right? It's so important to be honest during this time. And we're elevating our mindset that no matter what, we will be fine.
Incredible. And tell me a little bit more about the Wise Women Communications.
So I launched that, oh, it's been over 25 years ago. I should look that up. And I had worked for a very, very large company. At the point I left them, they were the seventh largest corporation in the world. So budgets, that was pretty wild. But I decided to start my own business. And again, very fortunate that my husband was there and good salary, good insurance, all those various things. But I wanted to start a marketing and PR firm for just kind of the one-time projects. If somebody needed a website, we could design the website. If they needed branding, we would do the branding. And so I have consultants who work for me, bring in just the people I need just for the projects. Kind of came up with the wise women part because we are wise women. Now, we work with men, their money's green. And I also have men who are consultants who are absolutely fantastic. But I think, especially for women business owners, many times they want to work with other women. And so that was kind of the wise women communications part.
That's terrific. Well, I'm one of those ladies who love to work with other ladies always.
Right. Mhm.
What advice would you give to someone who is looking for freedom in their life, whether it's their work life,
Mhm.
their health life,
Mhm.
or just finding that freedom in general?
Mhm.
What advice do you have?
Right. I think the first thing is really be honest with yourself. Take stock. Are you in a job that you love or are you in a job that you hate? And I don't care if it's your own company, right? Sometimes we just don't even like our own company anymore. Are you in relationships that are helping your soul or hurting your soul? Yeah, there's always going to be little bumps and hiccups and things like that. But really look at everything. I was talking with someone, they said, I want to travel around the world, like that lady I was talking about. And they said, we just can't afford it. I said, go to museums, read books, watch movies. I said, there's so many other ways that you can make these things happen. Just sit down and think about what's important. Put it on a list and write it down, pen, paper, because it means your brain functions differently when you are writing things down. Even if you're typing them on a computer, it's still better to write it down now. We all have the problem with we can't read our own writing now, but write it down and put the most outlandish things. And then put the practical things too, because I tell people we still have to pay bills and things like that. But sit down and really figure out what's important. The last thing we want is for our headstone to say, I wish I would have.
Across oceans and voices, we rise as one. Our story